You open your eyes for the first time. The year is 1918. The place is a drafty townhouse in London. You take your first breath, but instead of fresh air, you get a lungful of London fog, which is just a fancy British way of saying coal smoke and industrial regret. Congratulations, you're a war baby. Specifically, you've arrived just as World War I is wrapping up. Your father is still in the trenches of France, and your mother is a French expatriate who insists on speaking to you in her native tongue because, in her words, English sounds like someone trying to chew a wool sweater. By age 5, you're already living a double life. In the streets of London, you're a polite British schoolboy who says things like righto and jolly good. But the moment you walk through your front door, you're whisked away to a world of camembert cheese and rapid-fire French. This bilingualism is your first superpower. In the 1920s, most people's idea of international travel is walking to the next village. You, however, are essentially a tiny human bridge across the English Channel. Fact check. During the interwar period, less than 5% of the British population could speak a second language fluently. You're already in the top tier of potential recruits, and you haven't even lost your baby teeth yet. Your childhood is defined by the Great Depression. While the Roaring Twenties were a party in America, for you it's a lot of bread pudding and hand-me-down sweaters. You spend your teenage years in the 1930s watching the newsreels at the cinema. You see a guy with a tiny moustache making angry speeches in Germany and think, he seems like he'd be fun at parties. Narrator, he was not. The 3rd of September, 1939. You're 21 years old, sitting by the radio, when Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain announces that Britain is at war with Germany. You expect to be handed a rifle and sent to a ditch in Belgium, but fate has a weirder plan for you. Because you spent your summers in Paris and can swear fluently in 2 languages, you get a mysterious letter. It's not from the army. It's an invitation to an interview at a boring-looking office in London's 64 Baker Street. You show up expecting a clerical job, but you're met by a man who looks like he hasn't slept since 1914. Can you ride a bicycle? He asks. Yes, you say. Can you lie to your mother without blinking? I've been doing it for years. Welcome to the SOE. The Special Operations Executive, or the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, was created by Winston Churchill in July 1940 with one simple, terrifying order. Set Europe ablaze. This isn't the regular military. There are no parades. There are no medals you can show your friends. If you get caught, the government will pretend they've never heard of you. You're essentially a government-funded ghost. Your training begins at Wanborough Manor, a stately country house that has been converted into a school for thugs. You wake up at 6 a.m. for a light jog, which is actually a 5-mile dash through mud while carrying a 40-pound pack. Your instructors aren't drill sergeants. They're former Shanghai police officers and career criminals who teach you the fine art of silent killing. Fact: the SOE's close combat syllabus was designed by William Fairbairn and Eric Sykes. They taught you how to use a Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife to puncture a lung in 3 seconds flat. You learn that gentlemanly fighting is for people who want to die. You learn to kick, gouge, and strike the throat. It's like a very violent yoga class. Next up, demolitions. You spend your afternoons learning how to blow up railway tracks with plastic explosives. You're taught that the most effective way to derail a train isn't a massive bomb on the tracks, but a small, well-placed charge on the fish plates that connect the rails. You also learn about the well rod, a suppressed .32 caliber pistol that sounds like a sneeze but can put a hole in a Nazi officer from 10 yards away. You're also introduced to your new best friend, the L-pill. It's a small, rubber-coated vial of potassium cyanide. If the Gestapo catches you, you're supposed to bite down on it. Death follows in about 30 seconds. It's the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, except the free part involves being dead. You tuck it into a hidden pocket in your trousers and try not to think about it. By 1942, you're ready. You've been given a fake identity. Jean-Pierre, a humble clockmaker from Lyon. You've memorized your legend, a backstory so detailed, you know the name of your imaginary first-grade teacher and what the bakery on your fake street smells like. Fact: the SOE's Section F, the French section, was incredibly diverse. Out of the 470 agents sent into France, 39 were women. One of the most famous, Virginia Hall, did it all with a wooden prosthetic leg she nicknamed Cuthbert. You realize that if a woman with a wooden leg can outrun the SS, you have no excuses. The night of your mission arrives. You're standing at the edge of a modified Whitley bomber. It's midnight, and the French countryside is a dark, jagged void below you. The dispatcher hooks your parachute to the static line. The wind is howling, and the smell of grease and high-octane fuel is making you nauseous. "Good luck," the dispatcher yells over the engines. "Try not to land in a tree." You jump. The jerk of the parachute nearly snaps your neck, but then silence. You're floating over occupied France. Somewhere down there, thousands of German soldiers are looking for people exactly like you. You see the signal fires of the resistance, 3 small blazes in a triangle. You hit the ground hard, rolling into a ditch. As you bury your parachute in the damp soil, a man emerges from the shadows holding a Sten gun. He looks at you and whispers the code phrase, "The carrots are cooked." You respond with the countersign, "But the onions are raw." He nods and gestures for you to follow him. You're in. You're behind enemy lines. You're carrying enough explosives to level a bridge, and your only ID is a fake card printed in a basement in London. But as you reach the edge of the woods, you see a flash of headlights in the distance. A German patrol is heading straight for your landing zone. And they aren't just passing through, they've found your discarded parachute. Part 1 ends as you hear the sound of a German shepherd barking, and it sounds very, very close. The German shepherd is 20 feet away and looks like it hasn't had a treat since the Weimar Republic. You don't reach for your gun, that's a one-way ticket to a firing squad. Instead, you reach for a small tin of pepper mixed with mustard gas crystals. It's an SOE classic. You sprinkle it behind you as you bolt. The dog hits the scent, starts sneezing uncontrollably, and suddenly you're just a shadow in the French night. Welcome to the job. If you thought the training was hard, wait until you try to find a decent croissant in 1942. You make it to Lyon, the capital of the resistance. Your new home is a cramped apartment above a bakery. You are now Jean-Pierre, a clockmaker. Your life is a constant cycle of paranoia and boredom. You spend your mornings fixing gears and your afternoons avoiding the milice, the French collaborationist police who are often more dangerous than the Germans because they actually know the local slang. Fact check. Life in occupied France wasn't all dramatic movie scenes. Food was strictly rationed. You're living on ersatz, everything. Your morning coffee is actually ground up roasted acorns and chicory, which tastes exactly like dirt mixed with sadness. You haven't seen a real egg in 6 months. But you're not here for the cuisine. You're a pianist, SOE slang for a wireless operator. Your piano is a Type B Mark II radio, a 3.0 pound beast disguised as a suitcase. Every night, you have to lug this thing to a different attic, throw an antenna wire out the window, and tap out coded messages to London. This is the most dangerous part of the job. You have a life expectancy of roughly 6 weeks once you start transmitting. Why? Because of the Funkmesswagen, German direction-finding vans disguised as laundry trucks. They cruise the streets with rotating loop antennas, triangulating your signal. You have exactly 20 minutes to send your message before they pin down your building. If you're at 21 minutes, you're probably going to spend the rest of the war in a very uncomfortable room at the Hotel Terminus. Fact: the Hotel Terminus in Lyon was the headquarters of Klaus Barbie, the infamous Butcher of Lyon. He was known for his innovative use of boiling water and electricity during interrogations. You keep your L-pill in your cheek every time you hear a car idle outside your door. By 1943, the pressure is mounting. You've helped organize local Maquis guerrilla cells, teaching them how to use the Sten gun, a submachine gun made of cheap stamped metal that costs about $9 to manufacture. It's prone to jamming and might accidentally shoot you in the foot if you drop it, but it's better than throwing rocks. You also help distribute black propaganda, fake German newspapers that tell soldiers their wives back home are dating movie stars. It's the 1940s version of a troll farm. The 1st of June 1944. You're huddled around a hidden radio, listening to the BBC's messages personnels. These sound like nonsense to everyone else. The rabbit has a cold, or John has a long moustache. But then you hear it. The first half of a poem by Paul Verlaine, Les sanglots longs des violins de l'automne, the long sobs of the violins of autumn. This is it, the signal for D-Day. Your mission, total chaos. You and your resistance cell spend the next 48 hours turning the French infrastructure into Swiss cheese. You use grease to sabotage locomotive boilers, causing them to explode when they hit high pressure. You use plastic explosives to drop the bridge at Valence, cutting off German reinforcements heading to the Normandy beaches. Fact: on the eve of D-Day, the SOE and the resistance successfully sabotaged over 950 of their 1,000 designated targets. While the Allies were storming the beaches, you were making sure the German tanks didn't have any functioning railway lines to get there. The war doesn't end with a movie montage. It ends with a slow, grinding retreat. You survived the liberation of Lyon in August 1944, watching from the sidelines as the same people who cheered for the Nazis last week are now shaving the heads of horizontal collaborators in the town square. It's messy, it's violent, and it's definitely not in the brochure. By 1945, you're back in London. You expect a parade. Instead, you get a polite thank you and a small pension. In January 1946, the SOE is officially disbanded. The government wants to forget the ungentlemanly things you did. Your files are sealed for 75 years. You go back to your life, but you can never tell your neighbours that you once blew up a train while wearing a dress as a disguise. Hey, it worked for some agents. You live a long life, always sitting with your back to the wall in restaurants and jumping every time a car backfires. You die in your sleep at age 92, a retired clockmaker with a very boring resume and a very shiny Fairbairn Sykes knife hidden under your floorboards. What really happened? The SOE was a desperate gamble that paid off. Historians estimate that the resistance and SOE activities shortened the war in Europe by up to 6 months. Thousands of agents like you risked everything, and many didn't make it back. But hey, at least you never have to drink acorn coffee again. And that is what life was like as a World War II secret agent. Just remember, if anyone ever asks if the carrots are cooked, maybe just say you're more of a potato person. It's safer that way.